Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatyadesatarine Namaste Saraswati Devi Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जाए। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारे, जय राधा माधव जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारे। गोपेदन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारे, गोपेदन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारे। यशोदनंदन ब्रजदान रंजना, यशोदनंदन ब्रजदान रंजना। यमुना तीरवनचारे, यमुना तीरवनचारे। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारे, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारे। गोपेदन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारे, गोपेदन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारे। Janarandana Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Yamuna Tiravana Chare 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 Jai Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Mai Ki Jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai, over His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Iskon Guru Vrinda Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj, for amazing kirtans. I'll just take 1 minute. I know everyone is already aware about Maharaj's glory, and we had opportunity and fortune to hear Maharaj regularly from last 1 week almost. But still, for our purification, I'll read Maharaj's introduction. Maharaj is sannyasi disciple of His Holiness Indradum Swami Maharaj, and he joined ISKCON in 1989. Some of us did not even know a lot of things at that time, and received sannyas order in 2016 in Srila Mayapur. He is actively working on helping ISKCON in achieving its first purpose and traveling globally. Past 12 years, he has completed 14 rounds. Maharaj, still 14, or you started 15? 14 round the world tours, conducting teachings and training courses based on Bhagavad Gita to encourage unity of faiths, success in applying spiritual principle in personal life, and helping in establishing new social spiritual projects to offer sustainable solution to the various problems of the world. And I know one of the problems that Michigan is facing right now is school shooting, right? So if everyone takes the message that Maharaj is giving and purify their consciousness, probably will not have that kind of problem that we are facing in Michigan right now. So thank you, Maharaj, for all your blessings and continuous talks. And thank you very much. His Holiness Bhakti Rasayana Sagar Maharaj Ki Jai.
Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Let's welcome Maharaj by our traditional way, by 3 times loudly chanting
Haribo! 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 Thank you. I've noticed that this is abode of Lord Jagannath. So Vaibhav is obviously very strong Jagannath Bhakta. And so thank you for organizing program, inviting devotees. And so I'll try to serve you in any way I can, even though my capacity is very limited. But if there is any wish or suggestion of what we would like to discuss, it can be philosophy, it can be educational training, material, and it could be pastimes, entertaining, if you like. So, whichever topic you like me to address.
Earlier, Prabhuji and I were discussing a couple of others, and if you're okay and everyone okay, we want to suggest topic like what is the importance of having bona fide spiritual master in our lives, and what is the importance, in the same line, what is the importance of actually initiation. If you're okay and if everyone okay, maybe we can touch upon the topic.
Interesting. How many initiated devotees we have present? Please raise your hands. Okay, about half. That's good. So yeah, Bhagavad Gita is addressing the subject matter quite thoroughly. And we'll choose one of the texts which speaks about importance of the spiritual master or interaction with the spiritual master. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyanandana Shalakaya Chaksharan Miritam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutare Swayam Rupakadam Mayam Dharati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bhutaya Mahat Prema Pura Vibhur Nirmaya Kshati Yadamusha Purusha Bhangte Gunan Sudasa Sudasatmaka Yalang Krishishta Bhagavan Vacham Seme Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya So we'll read the main text, which is addressing the subject, and that is chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge, text 34. I'm sure that many devotees know this verse by heart. I think this is one of the key verses you learn at the Disciples course, right? How many of you have passed the Disciples course? Okay. Is that the one you learn? Because I never passed the Disciples course. Okay, let's check and see. Tadvidi prane patena Pari prasnana sevaya Upadikshanti tatjnanam Jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Translation: Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. These self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The path of spiritual realization is undoubtedly difficult. The Lord therefore advises us to approach a bona fide spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession from the Lord himself. No one can be a bona fide spiritual master without following the principle of disciplic succession. The Lord is the original spiritual master, and a person in the disciplic succession can convey the message of the Lord as it is to his disciple. No one can be spiritually realized by manufacturing his own process, as is the fashion of the foolish pretenders. The Bhagavatam 6.3.19 says, Dharmam hi sakshat bhagavat pranitam. The path of religion is directly enunciated by the Lord. Therefore, mental speculation or dry arguments cannot help lead one to the right path. Nor by independent study of books of knowledge can one progress in spiritual life. One has to approach a bona fide spiritual master to receive the knowledge. Such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender, and one should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant without false prestige. Satisfaction of the self-realized spiritual master is the secret of advancement in spiritual life. Inquiries and submission constitute the proper combination for spiritual understanding. Unless there is submission and service, inquiries from the learned spiritual master will not be effective. One must be able to pass the test of the spiritual master, and when he sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically blesses the disciple with genuine spiritual understanding. In this verse, both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. Nor only should one hear submissively from the spiritual master, but one must also get a clear understanding from him in submission and service and inquiries. A bona fide spiritual master is by nature very kind toward the disciple. Therefore, when the student is submissive and is always ready to render service, the reciprocation of knowledge and inquiries become perfect. Tadviti pranipatana pariprasna savaya upadikshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshanaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Yeah, this is one of the most difficult subjects to understand. It says that there are two very confidential subjects. One is Guru Tattva and the other one is Shiva Tattva, right? Because Lord Shiva is non-different from the Supreme Lord, and yet there is a difference. And same is true in relation to the spiritual master, that we sing every morning, Sakshat Dharitvena Samasta Shastre Uktastatha Bhavyateva Sadbi, that all the scriptures, they enunciate that spiritual master is non-different from the Supreme Lord. And nevertheless, he is not the Supreme Lord. That was one of the very confusing points in the beginning of Krishna consciousness movement, when Srila Prabhupada was stressing a lot that there is only God is the Supreme Lord, can claim that position, and no human beings can be God. And those who think that they can become gods, they are dogs, right? And of course, condemning Maya bodies at every opportunity. And yes, that was very strong point. Srila Prabhupada was bringing again and again, and attacking Mayavad philosophy, because this is like one of the missions of the Vaishnavas, disproving Mayavad. And then the disciples, students at that point, Srila Prabhupada's students, were asking, so what can we do to make another step in our spiritual development? And Srila Prabhupada said, well, you have to accept initiation from me. And when they were asking what does it mean, he said, you have to accept Guru as God. As good, that Guru is as good as God. And then he left after the class. And they were very confused. And they were thinking, what is this? He was emphasizing so much that no one can be God except God. And now he says we have to accept him as good as God. So then they couldn't resolve it. And then they went to Srila Prabhupada and were asking, how is that? It seems like you are going against your own preaching, right? You explained to us that human cannot be God, now you're claiming that you are God. And Prabhupada said, no, it's not that I am God, but you have to respect me on the same level. And then, of course, Srila Prabhupada gives the analogy that if there is an ambassador of a certain country, right? Respect given to ambassador is equal to the respect to the country, and disrespecting ambassador would be taken as serious as disrespecting the country. And yet ambassador is not the country, right? Very simple to understand, because country, for example, you can drive across the country on your car, but it's not recommended to drive ambassador across, right? Drive over ambassador. So, and this is the foundation of our philosophy, Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. So, Guru has to be treated on the same level as God, and yet understanding that Guru is not God. And Srila Prabhupada would explain that Guru never thinks himself to be God. What to speak of God? He is not even thinking himself to be a Guru. To a degree that he would say that if someone thinks I am Guru, he is not Guru, he is Goru, which means cow, right? So, what is the mentality of a bona fide Guru? He thinks that his disciples are gurus in the making, and they only need some training to act in that role, and he considers himself to be the servant of his disciples, right? So he's training his disciples as a service to them and to Krishna, effectively, right? So Guru is one who sees others as gurus, whether real or potential. So, and we can see that very clearly in Srila Prabhupada's relationship with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, how from the first meeting, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati would immediately tell Srila Prabhupada that you're educated young man, why don't you preach the message of Lord Chaitanya in English-speaking countries, in English-speaking world? And he would repeat that instruction throughout their interaction, throughout the years. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati from the start had that meditation that Srila Prabhupada would have to act in that capacity as a preacher or as a guru. And we can see that that meditation made Srila Prabhupada to step into that position finally, very successfully, as we know. And Srila Prabhupada's meditation was exactly the same, that he would meditate on his disciples as gurus, potential gurus, and he would say that many times. And so this is the meditation of each and every bona fide spiritual master. Interesting, Srila Prabhupada would say that we need, I think he would say in one class at Mayapur, 10 million acharyas, right, to take care of this planet. And so, because this world has everything besides spiritual guidance, and therefore this was the main purpose of ISKCON, right? That Srila Prabhupada would say that spiritual guidance means Brahminical guidance, and so ISKCON is meant to train everyone to act as qualified brahmanas, and as we understand, brahmanas are the natural gurus for the entire society. And so whether one was born in a Brahminical family or not, birth is not sufficient qualification, because one has to develop certain knowledge and certain wisdom, experience to act in that capacity. And so this is what ISKCON is meant for. And we understand that there are different qualifications for brahmanas, right? Some brahmanas can teach children how to act properly and impart knowledge unto them. But there are some brahmanas who can teach heads of the states, right, how to act properly, etc. And so, and the whole society requires to be educated and trained on every single level of their activities. Because even if the heads of the state are encouraged in a certain way, that may not be enough to reform the society. A few years ago, I heard the situation. Of course, India is potentially the best country to have social spiritual development, because Vedic culture, Vaishnava culture is still alive in India, right? Even like statistically, there are anything between 2 and 700 million Vaishnavas in India, right? Mostly traditional Vaishnavas. So Vaishnava culture is very strong. And Narendra Modi would be very much supportive of Vaishnavas naturally, and would be very much, supportive of the Dharma principles. One thing is cow protection, right? So he encouraged different states to strengthen cow protection laws, and of course there are so many states in India, right? And these states are very different from the United States because United States are pretty much homogeneous, right? To a large extent, same kind of people live, same language, but as you know, India is like a combination of different countries, right? Each state has its own language, its own culture, its own food, its own dress. Everything is different, right? That there is practically hardly anything in common between, say, Punjabis and Anderis, right? Or between Bengalis and Himachalis or something like that. So totally different. And I guess the only thing which unites all the Bharatis is Krishna. The one common point. But yeah, therefore, it takes encouragement of every state to do something about cow protection. And so Maharashtra had already cow protection laws forbidding cow slaughter. That was followed by the letter, but not by the spirit, because what they did, they were taking cows out of Maharashtra and slaughtering them in the other state, like Karnataka, for example, and bringing back the beef and selling. So the law was followed, and it didn't really change anything, right? But now the legislation was kind of changed, and there was a law. I can't even remember if it was passed or it was just proposed to criminalize beef eating. So consumption of beef would be illegal in the whole Maharashtra. And so there was a discussion on whether, it's good or not, because one devotee's wife was studying in university in Mumbai, and so they would discuss whether this was a good thing or not. And practically all the students in the group were Hindus. And practically all of them, with the exception of the wife of this devotee, who was also a devotee, they said, why government has to interfere into people's diet? They can eat anything they want. Government should not, has anything to do with that. And she was the only one in the whole group of Hindu students saying, but come on, this is cow protection. Cow is very important, right? But they would all disagree. So Hindus were against. At the same time, Muslim group, there was a Muslim business community, and they said to strengthen cow protection laws would be good for the economy of the country. So Muslims would support, Hindus would object. So this is Kali Yuga, right? Even if you have, good governor, but if the population is bewildered or corrupt, what can you do, right? That's why, it's Kali Yuga. It's like the fourth canto of Bhagavatam is describing in relation to Prithu Maharaj pastime when the Bena Maharaj, the father of Prithu, was in power. And so basically he was like very cruel dictator, but at least he was suppressing the criminals. But after he was cursed by the Brahmanas, then all the criminals were feeling, that they can do whatever they want, and so they started harassing people. So it was like you say in this country, from frying pan into the fire. So the people were, in trouble in this way and the other way. And the comparison is given that there is an ant on the log which burns from both sides, so the ant doesn't know which side to turn. So Kali Yuga is like that. Everyone is so corrupt, so bewildered. The government is corrupt, and the people are also corrupt, and so it's like, what can you do? Where you can start from? So that's why it takes reforming every level of the society, on every, all categories have to be educated and trained and get good association. Of course, it's massive task. That's why Srila Prabhupada said, I didn't have enough time to achieve what was declared in the first purpose of ISKCON, but at least I could give spiritual knowledge and spiritual practices. But he was expecting us to carry on and see this mission to its completion, which is of course massive and almost impossible. But by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, everything is possible. But yes, this is what's required, that this is what ISKCON is meant for, to train brahmanas. And then educate and train everyone how to apply spiritual knowledge, Vedic knowledge, in practical life. And so this is what every genuine guru understands, and this is what every genuine guru is striving for. And we can see that by Srila Prabhupada's meditation and desire, it did happen that despite of his physical departure, there are so many devotees who embraced his spirit and his mission, and they carry it on. Besides my spiritual master, there are a number of brilliant examples, brilliant personalities who are doing amazing services as spiritual guides and very powerful reformers. Srila Radhanath Maharaj, my own Guru Maharaj, is openly saying that he's the greatest spiritual leader in the entire International Society for Krishna Consciousness, because the level of his preaching and his reforming everyone, and the impact he creates is unmatchable. Educating, training, and empowering such a brilliant disciples, Gaur-Gopal Prabhu, Ghanshyam Prabhu, and few others like that, is really amazing. And preaching to the top level of leadership, Barack Obama, British Parliament, etc., etc., and addressing business leaders through Artha Forum and other platforms. So basically speaking, he's creating real brahmanas, guiding powerful kshatriyas, inspiring topmost business people So, touching every level of the society, of human society, all the leaders. And so, very, very powerfully influencing the world. And we have quite a few spiritual leaders like that, and it's all been by the inspiration, vision, and meditation of Srila Prabhupada, right? I mean, those who read, for example, Journey Home, how did it happen in case of Srila Radhanath Maharaj, how Srila Prabhupada empowered him to do what he is doing. And my spiritual master also tells the same about his association with Srila Prabhupada. So that's the principle, that genuine spiritual master meditates on his disciples, that they become spiritual masters, and by the power of his meditation they advance in Krishna consciousness. So that's the blessing of the spiritual master. And of course, one very important thing is that what has been highlighted in this verse, very interesting. In the beginning of this verse, it speaks about the spiritual master in a singular and in a singular form. Approach a spiritual master, but then the end of this verse speaks about the spiritual masters in a plural form, right? Because it very clearly says they, right? Upadikshanti, they will initiate. So, and this is why the very first chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita is entitled Spiritual Masters in a plural form, right? And this is what Krishnadas Kaviraj explains, that I have many spiritual masters. And Bhagavatam 11th canto also explains the same thing, that basically speaking, we start our spiritual advancement by accepting at least one person who is better than us, right? Because material life means we think we are the best and we cannot learn anything from anyone because we are the, what do you call it? The emblem of perfection of the universe, right? But then by practicing Krishna consciousness, then gradually we start understanding, okay, there is still something I need to work on, and there is someone who is better than me. And so choose at least one person as a spiritual master. And then by further advancement, we can see that there are many spiritual masters, right? More than one. We can learn from so many. And the topmost level of spiritual advancement is that we start learning from everyone, right? That's why it says, there are 3 levels of spiritual advancement. First level is Kanishta Adhikari. Basically, Kanishta Adhikari does not respect anyone except Krishna in the form of a deity. And maybe at some level will respect his guru, but that's it. He will think that only my guru is good and everyone else is, I should not learn anything. Then Madhyamadikari sees the value of the devotees, right? understand that Krishna is in everyone's heart as Paramatma, and whoever tells me anything, I mean, it cannot happen without the sanction of the Supreme Lord. But Uttamatikari is defined by the mentality that I see everyone as perfect devotees, and the only imperfect one is myself. So that's the mentality of Uttamatikari. Everyone in this life is better than me. I am the worst. Of course, that's not to be imitated, because if we imitate, we'll be in depressed state, right? I'm the worst. But Uttamatikari doesn't mean one becomes depressed, because that's the topmost level of bliss. And then how it is possible to think that I'm the worst, and that is very clearly reflected in songs of the acharyas like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur, and others, right? Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita talks horrible things about himself. He says, I'm worse than Jagai and Madai. I'm more sinful than Jagai and Madai. Jagai and Madai, we say papishta, right? And I'm lower than worm in the stool. Whoever will chant my name, whoever will hear my name will lose all the piety. And whoever will speak my name will become sinful. So, and this is personal associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? And he speaks about himself like that. And Srila Prabhupada says this is not artificial, they actually feel like that. So, but we may wonder if, because it may look like very low self-esteem, right? From material point of view. But it has nothing to do with self-esteem, because it's one manifestation of ecstasy of a devotee, to think himself very low and fallen, because that helps him to always think of the Lord and meditate on his causeless mercy, because Lord Chaitanya is very merciful to the most fallen. So pure Vaishnava's thinking, I'm so fallen, I only can function by the Lord's causeless mercy. But then how do they stay inspired? Because they think of themselves very, very fallen, and they think that it's only by the Lord's mercy I can do anything worthwhile, which is actually true, which is reality. And then they become inspired by the thought that despite of my fallen position, the Supreme Lord is so amazing that he can use such a useless instrument like myself and do so many amazing things through that instrument. So this is what inspires pure devotees. Anyway, ideal spiritual master, of course, is Uttamatikari, like Srila Prabhupada, who is thinking like that. He is thinking himself to be completely unqualified, like Srila Prabhupada would say, all my disciples, they are like my mothers and fathers, taking very nice care of me. And so, being very dependent on his disciples. And of course, that was inspiring the disciples to take more responsibility. And finally, the understanding is very simple, that actually it's Krishna who is manifesting himself through different people and helping us in our spiritual life, and one who inspires us the most is our personal spiritual master, whom we accept as Diksha. And Diksha, despite of it being a formality, is important because it is a commitment. So the comparison is given between marriage and Diksha. Spiritual master is compared to a husband because he has dominant role, and disciple is compared to a wife, and Krishna consciousness, which is born as a result, compared to a child. Like that. And so if we look at this analogy, we can say that most important thing between husband and wife is love and relationship, respect, all these things, which are informal. But then, what is the value of formal or legally entering into marriage? Because even though it doesn't seem to be the most important thing, still everyone understands that without legally entering into those relationships, it will be wrong thing, right? Why? For a simple reason that it is connected to responsibility and commitment, right? Because if there is no legal aspect of marriage, if it's missing, then there is no responsibility or commitment. It becomes kind of free for all, and cheapens the whole process. So in the same way, shiksha, or instructions and following the instructions of the spiritual master, is the most important. But diksha, which is formality, actually is a step which helps in taking mutual responsibility and helps in being committed in those relationships. Because even if I follow everything today, I'm not really committed. If I would not feel like tomorrow, I can stop that, and no one can tell me anything, because I never signed up for anything, right? So, but taking initiation means promising not only Guru, but all the Vaishnavas and the Supreme Lord and sacrificial fire to follow those rules and regulations for the rest of my life, which is pretty serious commitment, right? And that's why initiation gives special blessings, because it's a sacrifice. We sacrifice, by this process, we sacrifice our entire life for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And so, therefore, any devotee who went through formal initiation feels that it gives very special blessings. Am I right or right? Is it true or true? How many of you are initiated? Please raise your hands. Okay. How many of you felt the difference before and after? Yeah, huge difference. Yeah, because before initiation, my life is my life, right? And after initiation, it's different. my life is Krishna's life and my Guru's life, right? I do not represent myself anymore, but I represent Guru, Krishna, and Vaishnavas, right? So it puts very special responsibility on us. And along with responsibility come special blessings. And that's why, yes, that Srila Prabhupada explains in one purpose in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that quite heavy statement, we can say it, but he says no one can really advance in spiritual life without taking initiation from the spiritual master. Like that, for this particular reason, that it's special commitment and it attracts special blessings from Krishna in the first place. And so it's also explained that Krishna is giving us Guru, right? Because it's by Krishna's mercy that we came across Srila Prabhupada and his disciples and his followers. And we gained from that tremendously by Krishna's mercy. But then, in turn, Guru gives us Krishna. So Guru helps us to develop our relationship with the Lord, right? And so it's like in my life, it was very interesting how I've observed how my spiritual master takes a lot of time and makes a lot of effort to worship deities every day. And I was thinking, is it really important or not? Then I decided to ask him. He said, this is very important. I asked, shall I worship any deities also? He said, yes. And then I saw him primarily worshipping Shalagram Shilas. I said, shall I worship some Shalagram Shila like yourself? He said, no. He said, you have to worship Govardhan Shila. Because Shalagram is Vishnu, Govardhan is Krishna. So Govardhan is higher. And it's more traditional for our line. And then he gave me Govardhan Shila. And then so many amazing things happened. Like Prabhu was saying that I traveled the world 14 times, which I didn't. In the same way, I never came here. And it's not me who is sitting in front of you. I'm just accompanying Giriraj. It's he who traveled the world 14 times. And it's him who arrived to Farmington Hills and travels around. I'm just, carrying him around. And so, it's very amazing how Krishna manifests himself after we get opportunity to worship him and develop our relationship with him. And then we learn about Krishna, because then he manifests himself as a person. And this is what Krishna consciousness means, that we develop this relationship and we start admiring Krishna. We appreciate him more and more, understand his character. He's not very easy character all the time, because he's not always doing things in a straightforward way. He's known as Tribhanga Sundara. Some devotees say that, you stand in a crooked way and you deal with people in a crooked way sometimes. But always to benefit everyone, right? And then our appreciation and admiration of Krishna grows into the desire to serve him, do something for him, and then we really feel that he is my best friend and well-wisher, the closest friend, Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. And then we grow even further, and we understand that Krishna depends on us. It's very interesting, right? Even though we depend on Krishna, but Krishna also depends on us. Like Krishna dependent on Arjuna to take the responsibility and fight in Kurukshetra war. And in many ways Krishna depends on his devotees. Even though he could be doing everything himself, of course, but he wants his devotees to take responsibility and credit for the service. So for devotees' benefit, he puts himself in a dependent position. And we feel that it's our responsibility, right, to do what Krishna wants on his behalf and for him, taking care of him. And deity worship is exactly that position, right? Krishna makes himself dependent on his devotees. And final level of development is what our lineage is about, and that is Gopi Bhav, right? Or Madhurya Bhav, which is the topmost level of divine love, spiritual love, the mood of the gopis, the conjugal rasa. And Srila Prabhupada explains, and our acharyas are explaining, that this is the mood of total self-sacrifice. And the final verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita, of Shikshashtakam prayers, is about that mood. Ashlishi vapadaratam pinashtu mamadarshanam marmahatam karotava yatha tatha vavidata tulampato mat prananatastu sevana paraha. That there is no other Lord than Krishna, and he shall remain so, even though he may roughly handle me or with his embrace, or make me broken-hearted by not appearing in front of me. Despite of that, he will still be my worshipable Lord. So gopis are ready to sacrifice everything for the pleasure of the Lord, and they say, if my pain will give Krishna pleasure, I am ready to endure pain forever, like that. So, and this is the topmost level of devotion. We can see that in Srila Prabhupada's life, that he was ready to die executing the Lord's mission, and to achieve spiritual perfection, we meant to develop that mood. And spiritual master is teaching us by his examples and guiding us in our spiritual development. And that's why, yes, that we can't really advance spiritually without the guidance and inspiration by the spiritual master. So this would be few words on the subject, and hopefully it was understandable and helpful, at least for some. So if there are any questions, we can discuss, or comments, reflections.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Maharaj, I have two questions. My first question was, during the first year of initiation, and when we are getting ready, when we are preparing ourselves for initiation, that time the feeling that we cannot make any spiritual progress without the blessing and mercy of our spiritual master that is so strongly always on our mind. How to keep that same strong feeling. Over the years it is there, but that strong, the strength tends to go down, or we try, at least we, I'm speaking for myself, it just gets lost in so many other things that we are doing. So how to keep that fire growing? That is my first question, Maharaj. And my second question is, why are people so afraid of being committed to a guru? Why do people, like they are so hesitant to take to the process of initiation, even after seeing and hearing so many classes? Why is the commitment fearful to them?
Well, starting from the second question, that naturally it's a serious responsibility, and someone might think, what if I would not be able to live up to the expectations of the spiritual master and live up to the standards, and so that fear might be preventing from taking the responsibility. But then actually perfectionism never helps, right? Because we can never really achieve perfection, right? We can only try, and therefore this attitude is a little bit artificial, that actually it's very stressful, that I either do everything perfectly from the start or don't do at all. Right? Like in business, anyone who tried business knows very well that it is not possible, that you just start with wherever you are and gradually try to improve, right? So everything in this life is work in progress. It's not possible to jump from zero to hero. It's all process. And so it's kind of artificial perception. So basically lack of realistic understanding of how we advance in spiritual life, and it can be addressed. First of all, one needs to understand that without commitment in my relationship towards my guru, it's not really possible to advance. And so I have to commit, but it does not mean that, I have to be perfect from the start, because guru understands that, I'm work in progress, etc. The only thing I have to do is to try my best. As we say, if we do our best, Krishna will do the rest. But if we don't do our best, we cannot expect that. And so, therefore, it takes guidance from, first of all, it takes conviction that it's a compulsory step, and I cannot avoid it if I want at all to advance in spiritual life. And second, it takes association and guidance from those who have experience like that. And then in relation to dependence of the spiritual master and attitude, proper attitude towards spiritual master, which may dwindle in the process, well, I mean, it's kind of natural thing, because as we know, familiarity breeds contempt, and this is what it is. And I spoke with one Prabhupada disciple, and he said, there are so many devotees nowadays who write how they came to Krishna consciousness, but I had experience of living Krishna consciousness, and I can write a book about it, how I left Krishna consciousness. Actually, he is very interesting devotee, Prabhupada disciple, and he was behind the creation of the first and a very prominent movie about the life of Haridas Thakur. And so, at some point he left the society, the movement, and he told me in a nutshell how it happens, how one leaves the movement. And he says, first you come to the society of the devotees and you feel that all of these people are real saints, and I'm the only one sinner amongst them, right? I'm Dasa Dasa Anudas. I'm the smallest servant of all of them. And then the time passes and you feel, yes, I'm small servant, but there are still those who are even lower than me. So I'm not the lowest. And then the time passes, and then we get official initiation, and then we become Das, right? And then some time passes, I feel that I'm not Das, I am Prabhu, right? What's your name? I'm such and such Prabhu. And then, as Gauranga Prabhu says, that next level, there is a danger that to think I advance from Prabhu to Mahaprabhu. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gets competitor. And then Maya says, okay, this is too dangerous. We should kick him out of here. But he says that, in relation to the spiritual master, he specifically analyzed that. He says, in the beginning, I feel that of all the disciples of the spiritual master, I'm at the bottom. Then after some time, I go up, and I'm already not at the very bottom, but still low. Then I become like in the middle somewhere. And then after a while, I come up, and there is my guru, then some senior Vaishnavas, and then myself, right? And then I become a senior Vaishnava myself, so I'm directly under my guru. Then, I develop further relationship. We become equal with my guru, develop friendship. He can tell me things, I can also tell him things. Then I figure out certain things he cannot figure out, so I become better than my guru, right? So I become under the Krishna, but already above my guru, right? Surpassed my guru. Then I develop very friendly relationship with Krishna, so I come up to Krishna's level, and then I can surpass Krishna also, right? Because Krishna is doing what I want to do. I want him to do, right? So then Krishna becomes my servant. And he says this is the breaking point. This is when the Maya says, okay, enough is enough. You went too far. So out of here. And then, like that. And basically it is pride. And it creeps in very gradually without us noticing that. And it's actually very good question. How do we safeguard ourselves from the influence of pride? Anyone's interested to know? So two things are really powerful. First one, because in order to counteract pride, we have to understand what is humility and develop genuine humility, which is contrary to pride. So pride means I am perfect. You like to hear one joke which is very much relevant to us, our situation, because many times we try to practice humility, but it is not real humility, but how to say, pretentious humility. And then, of course, we become proud of our pretentious humility. We can become world champions in humility, right? If there is a world contest, we have good chances for a gold medal. The most humble Vaishnava of the planet, a huge gold medal. And so the joke goes as follows, and hopefully you can catch it. That because it's not a Russian joke, it's English joke. So nobody is perfect, correct? And because I am nobody, I am perfect. As simple as that. Nobody is perfect, I am nobody, I am perfect. So you can see how, pride can, creep in no matter how hard you try to kind of safeguard yourself. And so now, what is pride? Pride means I'm thinking myself to be perfect. And basically just thinking about myself all day long, instead of becoming Krishna conscious, I become self-conscious. Meditating on a pure devotee in a mirror. And so this is how the pride develops. That we become, we shut ourselves out from interacting with others and just focusing on ourselves and our perceived perfections. So we should understand that those perfections are really illusion, because they have very little to do with reality. So, and the antidote is feedback. And especially feedback from those who know us very well. Like direct family members, right? We can play very nice role in front of those who don't know us, right? Pretend to be something we are not and try to deceive others, but there are people who know us too well. And so they can easily deflate our bubble of false pride. And we just have to be open to their feedback, right? And so if you want to feel a little bit more humble, you can ask your husband or your wife or your parents or even your children, is there anything I should improve? And they can give you a big list. Enough for lifetime work. It's like, Srila Prabhupada, when he just started the movement, and he asked one devotee, can you type or edit. No, he was asking to edit a text, right? Because Srila Prabhupada studied English, but still, he wanted to perfect it. So he gave him some couple of pages to edit. And so that devotee edited, and Prabhupada really liked it. He said, would you mind editing more? And that devotee was thinking, okay, Srila Prabhupada would give him another couple of pages. He said, yeah, sure. And then Srila Prabhupada opens the drawer, and there are like huge piles. And Prabhupada said, all this needs to be edited. And the devotee's jaw drops, and he says, but Swamiji, this is whole lifetime of work. And Prabhupada looks at him, he says, no, it's many lifetimes. It's work of many lifetimes. Like that, so, try to ask those who know you really well, like what I can work on. They'll give you enough for many lifetimes, so you can be very nicely safeguarded from developing pride. And another very powerful antidote is, of course, gratitude. Because pride means, you don't think of that I'm actually consisting of the mercy of so many other people, right? And Krishna's mercy, and not only Krishna, but his representatives as well. And so attitude of gratitude is also a very powerful antidote against false pride. And even if we practice these two things, they can help a lot in keeping the right mentality. All right. Thank you. Good question. Yes, Prabhu. Microphone is here.
Thank you, Maharaj, for a wonderful answer and explanation. My question is more related to the different levels that you mentioned, Maharaj, Kanishadikari, Madhyama, and Uttamadikari. I understand that a lot of time we always have to, consider ourselves genuinely lower than all others. But a lot of time when we are trying to preach or trying to explain something, some occasion trying to correct someone, not in the intention of fault finding but to improve, we have to assume the position of higher understanding, higher, I don't know what the right word is. So how do we, because if that happens constantly, we start thinking, oh, we know more than this person, that's why I'm correcting, that's why I'm able to preach, that's why, So I feel personally sometimes those things get into the head, that yes, I am senior, or I know more, or I'm more aware, more informed, or, so how to curb that, in that same context.
Yeah, well, association is everything, and associating with those devotees who are genuinely humble helps us to understand what Krishna consciousness really is. One devotee, one very wonderful Prabhupada disciple, unfortunately he left his body relatively early when he was in his, just a little bit over 50. And he was doing pretty much the same service as my spiritual master, organizing festivals, mostly in Africa, in 5 countries in Africa, and in UK. He was British, Tribhuvannath Prabhu, quite well known. There are a few books written about him. He was a wonderful devotee, very simple, very humble, and yet very powerful preacher. And that was very attractive. And he was like one of the favorite disciples of Srila Prabhupada. There are so many stories that Prabhupada really loved him for his sincerity, for his simplicity, his service attitude, so many things. He was ready to do anything for Srila Prabhupada. And so he would do these huge festivals and inspire thousands of people, new people, brand new, that I never saw that, actually, so empowered that just with a single mridanga and few devotees playing kartals, he would make a crowd of maybe hundreds or maybe 1,000 absolutely new people at rock festival. They would have their tent and they would do kirtan, and all these people would dance and chant Hare Krishna. That was really amazing, Western people. And then he would introduce them to Krishna consciousness. And of course, these are completely new people, and they would not really even understand the etiquette of relationship. And so he would sit on the stage and would speak, give class, and then someone challenged him. He said, "Are you sitting there higher than us? So do you think you're better than us because you sat so high?" And his response was really mind-blowing. He said, "If I would sit on the ground on the same level like you would not be able to see me. So I'm sitting here higher than you just so that you would be able to see me. But if you want me to, I can sit on the ground. I have absolutely no problems. I'm here for you." And so the other people would say, "Shut up, what are you talking about?" So he's doing the right thing. So, doing everything as a service. So this is what I've learned from this example, because he was very sincerely speaking like that, was not pretending. He was actually, he never actually felt himself better. And he was doing everything he was doing just to serve everyone else. And so associating with such devotees and seeing their example actually helps us to understand how to do everything as a service without identifying ourselves with any position. Understanding that these are just borrowed plumes, right? Like Prabhupada would say, which we should not be proud with. Yes, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandapana. Thank you so much for the blessing. Thank you so much for blessing us with your divine association and for the wonderful class. Maharaj, my question is that when we don't have any special material pleasures, devotional life following becomes very easy. But with time, Krishna blesses us with a lot of material pleasures, like a home, a car, etc. We keep getting entangled more and more with this world. One day we don't even recognize and we reach at the fag end of our life. And we look inside ourselves and we still see a lot of anarthas and desires to be in this world. The best part is that we don't even know when the fag end of our life is, as that can come at any time. Maharaj, how do I avoid that state and to make sure that I go back to the spiritual world? By following the process and by seeing the tapasya of our acharyas, we understand it's not easy to go back. How can I go back, Maharaj?
Okay. Yeah. Krishna is very kind to his devotees, and probably many of you have noticed that since you've started chanting Hare Krishna, materially speaking, many things have improved in your life. How many of you noticed that? Seem to be very typical, right? But then the question is why Krishna is giving us all these things, right? is that for my pleasure or for service? And answer is obvious. He gives all these things for service. And then that's the proof of our devotion, that are we using these things for Krishna service or try to enjoy these things for ourselves? And of course the question of our free choice comes in. But if we genuinely want to develop in Krishna consciousness, then it's important for us to understand that Krishna gives all of these things for us to serve Him. And I think I've mentioned that the biggest, or one of the biggest secrets, is to use everything which is most dear to us for Krishna, right? And of course, the dearmost thing in the material world is money, right? Money is the honey. It's so sweet, can't be beat. And so, yeah. And so that's why the principle is to offer everything to Krishna, and mostly material things are requiring money to purchase. And that's why if we offer everything to Krishna and turn money into Lakshmi, right? In the same way as we turn food into prasad by offering it to Krishna, so we should transform all money into Lakshmi by offering to Krishna. And our meditation and prayer is very simple. Please let us use this energy of yours only for your pleasure, right? And so then whatever money can buy should be used for Krishna. And then we understand, okay, if we offered all the money to Krishna, then whatever we buy, we should use only for Krishna and not for ourselves, right? The house should be Krishna's temple, meant for, devotee association and devotional services. Car is another chariot for Krishna and for devotees. Garuda, right? Etc., etc. And even clothes I buy, it is for the body I'm meant to use in Krishna's service, right? Even toothpaste and toothbrush is to brush my teeth and clean my tongue so that I could chant Hare Krishna with a brushed teeth and clean tongue, so that Krishna would dance on the tip of a clean tongue. Like that. So anything. And even if I take rest at night, it's dandavat, right? And meditation. I go into samadhi. Yoga nidra. Do my dandavat for 6 hours. Extended dandavat. So that I could, be fully invigorated in my service to Krishna. So like that. So this should be the meditation, that whatever Krishna gives, it's not for my pleasure, but it is for His pleasure. And then if we act like that, then our return home back to Godhead is guaranteed. Hare Krishna. Okay, so... Okay, last one.
As a feedback from last class, one of the evening class, that 4 P's helped me very well, like posture, prayer, and...
It's on actually, I think, no?
The chanting 4 P's, you said sitting posture and prayer mood and pronunciation and pranayam while chanting, counting the mantra. That helps me focus very well, Maharaj. Only the prayer mode is not coming, because while breathing and counting, forgot about prayer. So slowly it will come up. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Very good. I'm glad that these points are helpful. So we don't want to, keep anyone, delay anyone. But one thing is we were talking about the spiritual master, and of course, Srila Prabhupada is the preeminent spiritual master for all of us, and we all depend on his blessings. And how many of you would like to receive Srila Prabhupada's blessings tonight? Okay, so Srila Prabhupada would explain that anything which is associated with either Krishna or pure devotee becomes surcharged by his special potency, and some of you might know that by the mercy of one very special Prabhupada disciple, he gave me Srila Prabhupada's personal kurta he was wearing in early 70s, and which is surcharged by his special energy. And we have this kurta with us, and so all the devotees can get Srila Prabhupada's blessings. And Giriraj is also wish-fulfilling Giriraj. If you still have any desires, you can ask Giriraj. He will be happy to do anything which would help you in your Krishna consciousness. That's why he is traveling around. And so we'll be finishing with this. At least our official part. I'm sure there is prasadam part as well. Vaibhav Prabhu is looking after that. There is one additional relic, that's Srila Prabhupada's personal visiting card from Los Angeles, our western headquarters of ISKCON. And that's Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Kurta. You can all come and touch to get Prabhupada's blessings. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And someone can meanwhile chant mantra. Maybe Vaibhav Prabhu. He can do this. Okay, you want to hold kurta? Yeah, you can do so. Okay, so everyone can come, get Prabhupada's blessings, pray to Giriraj. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Krishna 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 Sankirtan Yagya ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This was evening raga from Varshana, and it's called Marva. So, very traditional raga. As you know, Varshana is the home place of Srimati Radharani. Very special. Thank you all very much for coming, and of course special thanks to our Vaibhav Prabhu. So he only needs to make one more step, finally get initiated and become maybe Bhakti Vaibhav, I'm not sure. But yeah, waiting for quite a while, right? How many years? 8 years. Anyway, if I will ever see Radhanath Maharaj anytime soon, I'll definitely I'll definitely tell that there are so many sincere disciples of his doing so much of wonderful service, waiting for his special mercy at Farmington. So hopefully he'll bestow all the blessings upon Vaibhav Prabhu and all of you as well. Hare Krishna.